feels good to be back to just doing one movie and one review a night. Though I'm still doing it at the ass crack of dawn. But this is an invitation to come see about a film. Won't you join us? What's going on, Dungeon Dwellers? Welcome back to Dave's Dungeon. I am, as always, the one, the only, the magnificent Dungeon Master Dave. The movie for your consideration this evening, Dungeon Dwellers and horror aficionados alike, I submit to you the horror society I'm trying to build, The Invitation. So I usually judge a film based on 5 criteria. So before I get into the film itself, let me talk about how I'm going to judge this film. I judge a film basically off of 5 parameters. That is plot, special effects, tension, gore, victim and killer. And these can permutate if I feel like they need to. But typically it's 5 parameters with scores of 10, judged on a basis of 50. I come up with a grade for the movie. So with that in mind, let's dive right in. Let's talk about the plot a little bit. I feel like I'm glad we had Psycho Gorman between The Dark and the Wicked in this film, or else I'd have been burnt out. If you get what I'm saying. Because this, if The Dark and the Wicked was a slow burn, this is like if a slug was on fire. Okay, it's slow, and it really is trying to do something ambitious here, but how long are we really going to go through this? Where everyone can tell something is going on. Okay? The ball gets dropped fairly early. Okay? Where, we're all on edge because of something that happened. No spoilers in this section if you didn't know. Spoilers will be after I give the total on the film. But it doesn't feel good when you leave me in a situation where I know something else is going on, but you don't ever work up to it and get it going and make it known and sort of help me figure it out as the audience member. You get what I'm saying? As a viewer, I should get the inside sort of scoop into the naughty business going on, and that way I have the built up expectation. Well, this film kind of leaves its audience in the dark for what I feel is far too long, because it's trying to build some other mystery that it's not even going to pay off on. And that's really another criticism of the plot, is so many different directions this film could have gone in, and the various angles it made you question. It doesn't necessarily develop them all, and I found that quite perturbing, because you spent so much time and so much effort making me question it. You made so much of the film sort of fit to the idea that this might be a thing. And then you shillelagh it in the middle of everything. And I'm just like, really? Really? This is what you do? I mean, for that reason, and for a few other things that I'll talk about in the spoilers, I'm going to give this movie, on its plot, a 7.5. And I'm being more generous with the plot than you might expect. From what I've said about it so far, it doesn't sound like too much was happening, but it is doing something, and I don't mind what it's doing. I just wish it would do it a little faster. And it's got some fairly large holes in it that I'm gonna shoot. Yeah, we're gonna do that in spoilers, so stay tuned. Special effects. I have to give this a fair score. It's an 8. I have to say the blood felt real in the sort of aesthetic we're going for, and we'll talk a little bit more about the gore later. But the overall sort of practicality of the effects, I would say, are about an 8. Um, Honestly, there were a few things that they did that sort of made me detract, and I'll talk a little bit later about that in spoilers. But regardless to say it, the special effects are fine. You know, where the film actually needs special effects, but for the most part, there are things that happen in this film that'll drive the avid watcher of a horror film. And I swear, I get a notification every time I try to make one of these reviews. And I'm making them at the weirdest time for me to be getting notifications. But anyways, there were certain things that an avid horror film watcher will see and go, that's weird. That doesn't feel right in a lot of senses, and it just, I don't know. It had a lot of things going on that did not compute. But where it did compute was in the tension section, which is a 10. It's the 10 of the film. And if you've heard me say that before, you know what that means. It means of everything that was good in the film, this is the thing that was best. And this film, Where the Dark and the Wicked did a pretty decent job of developing tension, but they kind of fell down on what I was being tense about. This, on the other hand, you know what you're tense about. You know, you don't know what's going on. And I have to say, there are a few things that'll, I don't know, I'll talk about it in spoilers because I don't want to mention it here because it might. Smart marks. You know, you know, the thing with the, anyway, smart marks will get it. And too quick, I think. I think things get weird fast enough that I don't know. It could be it doesn't detract is what I'm going to say there. If you happen to see through this film quite early, or in some way you guess at and you come upon the plot, it doesn't detract. You knowing that, you're still as much in the dark as sort of you've seen just one step below surface level of this film. And I think that's really kind of what makes this film worth watching. And so I really have to give the tension in this film a 10 because, man, it explores it. It explores how you get to certain levels of tension on just face. And then how you stay there, I mean, just mind-boggling. And man, oh me, there are some things in this film that I really wanted to just let it just really make me upset and weird and frustrated with. But I was watching it and I utterly just, I couldn't get mad at it for any particular reason. And I don't necessarily try to get mad at a film, but the things that were bothering me, I tried to see if it was like one of those things where you're just like, am I having a bad time with this film? Or is it the case that I'm just in a mood and the film is not helping? Is it me or is it the film? And I have to say, this film is trying to boggle you as much as it's trying to boggle the cast in a way. And I'll say this, it does a good job of that. It even does a good job of boggling the freaking writers at certain points because they've written themselves into several plot holes. Spoilers. Anyways, let's say the tension's a 10. I have to say this film actually didn't lose points for gore. Though the special effects were a little lacking, I have to say the gore worked where you used it. So I didn't want to take any points from the film for that. If it had bothered me in some way, if it had been more cheaply done or more artificial, I might have taken a point or two here. But the film uses it in just so. The hand is light and it's realistic, and that's kind of what adds to the overall punch and tension of this film, is that it's realistic. So you know, that's definitely makes it kind of worthwhile. And as always, we're getting to our final category, which is the victim and the killer. What to say about this one? Without spoiling, I liked it. I will say that first off. In a weird way, it mimicked several other. I don't want to say films. It's mimicked one film, but one event in a weird way that is unique and sort of interesting to the overall conclusion of the film and what the film asks you to reconcile and wrestle with. And there's a big old, like, I don't want to say the film's political, but there's something that's been in the current sort of, I guess, social climate of what's been going on in the world recently is a certain kind of way, and this film mimics that. So I really have to say less and go to the totals now, because I really don't want to spoil it before I spoil it. So anyways, I'm going to give that a 9.5. So the plot's a 7.5. The special effects is an 8. The tension's a 10. The gore is a 10. And the victim and killer is a 9.5. So that rounds us out for a total score of 45 out of 50 for a nice solid A minus. You know, it didn't. When I say a film's an A, I don't mean it's Star Spangled Awesome. I mean it's good. I mean it's worth watching, regardless of what problems it might have. You know, and I don't see the point in giving you the idea that I could give something a 10 or an A and never giving a film an A. Yeah, I don't see the point in that. It doesn't. Why? Why can't I just say, hey, this one was like A quality, and then go, these were a little less, these were more, and then, you know, these were don't bothers. I'd rather give you the honest sort of, like, if I were to pull it out and put it in a drawer somewhere, where would I put it? You know, would it be the A drawer? Would it be the B drawer? Would it be the C drawer? And I would put this film securely in the A drawer, on the shelf of probably watch every other year. I have a list of movies I watch every 5 years, every other year, and then every year. And this would probably go every other year. This is definitely a horror film for people who like horror in a I don't want to say in a sort of formative way, but it has the form of other films, and if you like those, you would like this. But that being said, that's going to do it for our non-spoiler section. Thank you guys so much for watching. I just have to say this real quick before you run away into whatever abyss it is that you come out of and leave into each time. But thank you so much for watching my videos, and your response to these things has been incredible. The past couple of days, I've not even really been able to keep up with all the neat sort of comments that you guys have left and talking about your own experiences, and it's just been a blur and a blast, and I've had such a good time doing it. I can't wait till we see some of the bigger events that I have planned, and now that I'm back on track, I'm feeling fairly confident I'll stay there. Let's see where we get. Let's see where we get. But I'm having fun, and I hope you are too. And it's really seems like you are, which is how awesome you guys have responded to this series, and your views and everything have really meant a lot. So now that I've scared away everybody who should have by now ran away because they realize I'm wrapping up the non-spoilers section, spoilers. Spoilers. No, that one just don't work. No, just I'm not gonna even no. So anyway, yeah, this is like a what happens if the Manson family was a corporate business? I'm really struggling with the plot on a little part of this because here are a few key things that don't make sense to me. So, have you or a loved one ever experienced trauma? You know, some sort of heartbreaking event that somehow ruined or wrecked something in your life? Have you ever been victimized or had a family member of yours victimized and or killed? You know what you should add to that? More trauma? How is it that the underlying idea of this frickin' film is that the way you fix yourself is by breaking other things and hurting yourself and others more? It's the truth that seems so counterintuitive. Yes, to make yourself feel better, kill your friends. Huh? That way you can all be together. And that kind of gets me into my first topic for the spoiler section, poisonous ideas. You know, there's been some things going on here lately that I just don't want to talk about, and I'm not gonna. But if I could put my finger on it, the whole problem with those ideas and everything going on and all the different infighting between one side and another, and I'm sitting over here in a corner going, "You're all fucking idiots," is that we're not even discussing the ideas. We're not even talking about what's going on. We aren't. We're discussing nonsense, gibberish that someone made up to fool you. Understand that. Because they want to exert power over you. And that's exactly what the invitation is. It's it's the exertion of power over what is a personal situation where you in a moment of weakness are now fixing to be freaking indoctrinated. Okay? This is a movie about, you guessed it, gaslighting in a really big way. And that leads to one of the plot holes of this film. How much did William know? There's a main character, William. He has a girlfriend, Kira. And then there's I don't want to say the killers of the film, because they're obviously not. Not until they're forced to be. Of David and Eden. Eden and Will have a past and are ex-lovers who had a kid together. Spoilers! And that's the sort of central tragedy of the film that they dance around a whole bunch. It's not really even a big spoiler because you can guess that that's the sort of thing that went down given a sort of early conversation and all the sort of flashbacks and memories of, and then the absence of. So, you know, if you're watching a film, you can kind of tell bad stuff has happened, and that you're already kind of behind that in a way. But again, this also leads me to the idea of, you know, David and Eden are part of this organization, and they know something about what the evening will entail. And so do their two little friends who are also along from the invitation. But how much does William and Kira know? They seem to, well, I won't say Kira seemed. That seems unfair. But William looks disheveled, looks like he's been away to a foreign country, and so do Eden, and so do David. They all look like they've been to Mexico, because that's where they all supposedly had been. And this is where it kind of gets a little weird, because I don't know, I want to call her, I forget their names, because I was really more interested in the fact that they resembled other people that, from a historical point, I don't know that this is necessarily the best use of. But, jeez, man, this is such a mind job of a film, because at certain points, Will seems in on it, and at other points, he seems completely opposed to what's going on. And I don't know which side of this we ultimately come down to, because it ultimately seems like he just puts a kibosh on everything, and then a shamaz happens, and then it's just chaos for a little bit. Then it's the ultimate conclusion, and I like it. I like the ultimate conclusion, but how we get to there just feels a little weird, and I'll see if I can't pinpoint that. Kira obviously isn't in on it from just everything that happened. She just didn't have a clue, but I feel like Eden and David offered William a partnership in all this, because he seemed to get what it was all going to come down to. He seemed to get what the barbital was for, the barbiturate, phenobarbital. Let's see if I can butcher that name and say it 5 times faster. But the barbiturate, that was, sort of the gun in Act 1, sort of, so to speak. But then you're just kind of left wondering, what was up with Choi, and what was up with, was he in on it? And then, what was the ultimate goal? Was it that David and Eden and Will were gonna go to the island? Were they gonna kill everybody and live? Or was this the sort of murder-suicide thing where everybody's dying because the great leader in the sky, or the great leader from the other side of the screen, says it's time, like so many other events that, wow, just even more unsettling. Because this film plays with the idea of the Manson invasion a little bit, except for the fact that you were invited to the Manson family's home in a sort of inverted way, versus the invasion. You're invited to the slaughter, so to speak. Which, it's fine. I, as a person who watch horror films, have been invited to many a slaughter, whether it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Fright Night, or, just various films that kind of tap into that. The special effects, though, that didn't make sense were sort of gun kicks a guy across the room, and then the girl shoots herself in the stomach. She just kind of stands there, and this gun shoots way too many bullets for the kind of gun it is. And just little things like that, man. Just little things like that where it just doesn't quite make sense, where it just, certain problems in the film that just don't work. And I have to say, like, the girl coming at this couple, that worked for a little bit, but then, like, she just kind of died, and it didn't feel right. She was this threat all of a sudden. And I will say that about this film. It really doesn't have a good job. It really doesn't do a good job of pacing itself. And just like me, I don't do a good job of pacing myself. But it doesn't do a good job of pacing itself. It really saves everything for the last 20 minutes, which I could understand why you were doing that in a slasher film where it's a contained event and you kind of need it to all kind of go down at once, where you don't need the starting gun going off too soon. And in this case, I can kind of see a similarity. Man, you could have got to it faster than that, though. I mean, it's literally almost a 2-hour film, and you're riding that line at 19, 20 minutes worth of everything going to piss. And you're just wondering, and that's where the tension really kind of comes in, because you have your suspicions. You don't know who all is in on this. You know who you suspect is all involved. You know the two people who are definitely involved, and you know the two people who are kind of brainwashed to be involved, but you don't get a sense of who all is joined. Okay? Just keep that in mind when you go back and you watch it yourself. And the gore, like I said, the sort of violent moment at the end was well done. It didn't go to any superhuman places. It didn't get hokey. It didn't get into the let me gouge out an eye or maim somebody instead of just killing them. It was brutal. It was quick. It's to the point, and I really got to respect it for that. It didn't play around. It knew the whole reason it was here was to kill people, and it didn't mince about it. Get it? Mince. And the victim and the killer. The real kind of like horror of this, the sort of victim and killer overall scenario is that you see the ultimate reaction at the end, where if this were a ritual, it was successful. You see the red lanterns, and as if that's like a note of what all's going on, then you for sure see it. Where the whole hillside is dark, full of red lanterns, and you guessed it, he's got a red lantern sitting right there next to him. So I wonder how far that invitation spread. Quite a bit. And in some ways, it's sort of a dangerous idea that's been spreading around here recently and has happened in the last 4 years and continues to frickin' pervade society here recently, where so many people feel like they have the answer. So they're going to take it into their hands, and they're going to take it away from everyone else. Yeah, Handmaid's Tale creepiness levels, okay? Yeah, what is it? 1984. George Orwell. Utopia, for God's sakes. Which, if you didn't know, Utopia is about all the problems there are with Utopia and how it ultimately will always lead back to dystopia. Just for those of you who didn't know, Blade Runner, for God's sakes. But no, this organization kind of really drives it home of like they're brainwashing you. They're gonna make you feel a certain kind of way and use that to force you to do something that you think is going to be bad for you, but they think is going to be good for you. And they will use this as a control point from then on to then further control you and make you do things that you may or may not be satisfied with doing and come to regret given a time period afterwards. This is brainwashing. This is the ultimate sort of, we did it, it worked. All these hurt people just went out and hurt people. And they did it all because we promised them that they were going to be together in the end with whoever or whatever it was, or that they were going to be out of pain. And, I'm not up for lying to people at the best of times. I'm not up for dishonesty and distruth when it's so much simpler to just kind of be straightforward. But to do that to people who are hurt and weak already, and then to just, man, it's a really good point in the film. It's a really good way the film works you as an audience member. And this is why I recommend it. This is why I'm giving it such a high score, and in other films I might have counted off for how fucktastically slow this film is. You know, it is slow. Because, I mean, like, you're going through an hour and 20 minutes of this film where nothing's happening other than this dinner party is just getting more and more tense. And you're just having to watch the awkward sort of spiral. And, you know, I might punish other films for just wasting my time like that. But this film, granted, isn't wasting my time. It's actually developing a scenario that is driving the tension. Unless, you know, you're just some sort of like sadomasochistic dude who likes to watch people fight. You know, if that's your bag, then this will be a lark for you. You know, you'll actually get a good bit of like, ooh, this has some intrigue to it. But most of the time, the rest of us just feel uncomfortable, you know, because that's what the director wants. So that's what we give him. And does that make for a good watch? In this film, yes. Because you hear some like interesting stuff here and there, and the whole conundrum and the philosophy of it isn't necessarily bad in and of itself on the face. It's how it's applied and how it's used, like with most things. So, I have to say that's probably enough for the spoiler section, because I don't want to like ruin the sort of ending or what kind of ultimately happens or where things go. And there are some really interesting moments in this film that everybody can kind of get something out of. There's a game in there that I would love to play, but at the same time, that is the game that's called How You Ruin Friendships and Alienate People from Your Life for Good. I do not recommend the game that is played in that film. That seems like a bad idea. A few plot holes, though, I'd like to address. Number one, why would you send this woman that you're worried about outside with a known killer? Yeah, a guy just told you, hey, I murdered somebody, but I'm in this program and I'm better. Let me walk you out. Huh? The what now? Yeah. Plot hole. Plot hole. And this is where I ask, is Will in on it? Because Will was watching. Will knows. Will is your point of reference for most of the film. Will's standing there at the window, watch this happen, and he says nothing. So I'm wondering, what the hell? Does he know? Does he not know? You know, he seems to be in on it because David's telling him, look, dude, hold your shit down. You need to calm down. No, he's not really doing a good job of that. If that's what he's trying to do, it doesn't make sense. The story the guy even tells is like, ooh, that's just called murder, bro. And I'm glad you feel better about it, but it's still just murder. Plot hole number 2. I'm glad you justified it and you went to prison, but that doesn't necessarily make you a good person or anybody who gets to tell us what to do now. Thanks. You should probably go home, kind of deal. Number 2, why would you go to a meeting with your... the whole sort of setup there just felt wrong. And so I'm left to wonder, is Will in on it? Will, for much of this film, seems like he's complicit, and that's why he's freaking the fuck out. Okay? Why he's like, I mean, literally Nick Cage almost on cocaine. Okay? We're getting to those levels of, something's wrong, Will. What's going on? And even the cast is like, are you okay? Is it, is it hard being here? And it's like if somebody watches you eat a hot pepper and go, is it hot? No, it's like eating a snow cone. What the hell do you think it is? Hey, is it hard to be back here in this place where your son died? Ooh, too soon? Yeah, and just, again, there are plot holes on plot holes. And I'm just left wondering, these are things that you clear up before you send this. And I don't know, maybe they just didn't see it. Maybe they weren't thinking about it, and it just ultimately just kind of got away from them in small moments. I guess that happens to all of us. And like I said, I can forgive that. I take a point away and I'm right as rain. It's fine. I still say watch the hell out this film. It's great. It's not to say this film doesn't have moments where it makes you question, and then moments where your disillusionment is snatched away and you're forced to reconcile with the fact he's doing differently than what you may or may not have suspected him of doing. And then you have to just kind of, well, it kind of finished. It kind of was done. He kind of got what he wanted and at the same time completed the sort of understood ritual. So is it done? Was everybody supposed to die? Or was it, everybody was going to die but David and Eden? What was the goal? And you never really get a good closure on that. That's a huge freaking blaring plot hole. And it's something that's important because with all the other Red Lanterns, you're left wondering, are all those people dead? Or is it just that most of those people are dead? Because you hear the sirens and the helicopter at the end of the film, and you're left wondering, are they coming to this location? And no, they're going to places up the hill, and you can see where it's just a hillside of red lights, and you're just like, oh, shit. Okay, some stuff happened here. I don't know how many people are dead, but you hear gunshots, you hear screams, you hear sirens, you hear people being rushed, or people rushing in to help. The police, the firefighters, and the helicopters. So it's a little unsure or uncertain how much of what happened, but I will say, given the premise and the sort of setup, it does pay off what it sets up. It does deliver on a movie eventually. And this is the first of those sort of like delayed for a moment setups that I didn't completely bag on and hate, guys. Look, it's possible. It's possible to really think that something doesn't work and then get shown an example where it does. And this is it. This is a perfect use for it of like, an interview, and I'm going to say this, and this is the biggest fucking plot hole of them all. An introvert kills this movie in the first 5 minutes. You think I walk up in this party and I stick around for any amount of time to get killed? No. I roll up in this party and 2 minutes in, I vibe check it real hard. And then I go, nah, man, I ain't feeling it. And I Irish goodbye this thing like I'm got stuff to do. Okay? I'm out. You will wonder if I was even there. And some of my friends have gotten mad at me for that over the years. Because when I get done, I just get done. And I'm just, bye. And I don't even say it. It's just like, deuces, I'm out. I may say bye to you. Maybe. If I'm really feeling it. But sometimes I just gotta go. Sometimes the kisser is wanting to go. And we gotta go. But that's the thing. Like, an introvert would have vibe checked this and in 2.5 seconds went, absolutely not. Everybody's looking sideways at their eyeballs and everybody feels uncomfortable about being here. And then these two come up with some crazy shit. And then there's two spooky people in the corner. And we can't have that. No, not with what we're here to do. So it just, no, man, nah, I can't. I cannot. That's a plot hole. That's a huge fucking hole right there in the mast of your ship. But at the same time, once you get over the fact that, like all films, the intro is preposterous and can never work and would never happen as a realistic situation, you shut up and you actually enjoy the film. Fair enough. For some people, this will lower their enjoyment of the film. Some people, they'll hate this part. But I don't mind it. It's as much part of the mystery and the fun of it as anything. And I think that's worthwhile. I think, ultimately that adds, doesn't subtract. So watch this film. Thank you once again for joining me. Those of you hardcore horror fans who have been watching the spoiler section like madmen, you are quite possibly the finest mad lads I've ever had the pleasure of working with and or for. So thank you once again for joining me, Dungeon Dwellers. Hope you leave a like. I really appreciate it when you do. It means a lot to me. Make sure you subscribe. Got more videos coming each day. This one's going to drop around noon, and we'll have the next one for tomorrow, which is Chucky Day, which I hope you guys are excited for the new show. Make sure you set your alarm. Make sure you tune your DVR. Chucky is coming. No spoilers. As always, I'll try not to because not everyone can get to it on the day. So I'll try to make sure I differentiate my reviews. But thank you for joining me on these adventures, Dungeon Dwellers. I hope to see you on our next journeys. Till then, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.